Hi everyone, it is Gemma from Grow Your Mindset. I am here with Jackie Beer today, who I'm not going to say too much about because I'm really, really excited. I'm going to let Jackie tell you a little bit about herself. So just a light blind date, Jackie. Who are you and where do you come from?
I'm Jackie Beer. I come from a background of primary teaching, actually, and then secondary teaching. Went in as a supply. Well, actually, started as a TA in teaching. Ended up doing supply teaching at secondary school after being trained to be a primary teacher, and then ended up after a lot of years as head teacher of a big secondary school, 1,500 kids. You know, it's those moments you wake up and think, how the hell did this happen? So it was very strange, but it was via the route of lots of interesting English teaching and teaching, learning to learn and teaching kids emotional intelligence and all the things I absolutely love. So it was via that sort of route, really. But
Right. Well, if you don't know already, maybe you're thinking, Jackie Beer, I've heard that name before because it is mentioned on our website and we have talked about it on our training because back in 2016, both myself and Liz went on Jackie's course, which was actually, and I've got it here, Jackie, look.
oh yeah, my book. Yeah.
So we went on Jackie's course and we studied Jackie's book and we were totally inspired. So maybe you're thinking, that's where it comes from. And you are the person that kind of kick-started Grow Your Mindset, really, because it was without this course and without this book, we probably wouldn't be where we are today. And you've already mentioned this history of being in education and moving through. What makes you passionate about your job that you do today, and what are the best bits?
I suppose it's a bit of a tragic story in a way because I was a person who, in my early 20s, always been bubbly and outgoing, but very anxious and sort of hyper alert, you know, to any danger, and very afraid of public speaking. Completely, absolutely terrified of it. And got married. Couldn't even say my wedding vows. I'm sure some people have heard this story a few times, but it's worth saying because when eventually I had a child, a baby, and my husband became very ill with depression, which was triggered by a panic attack through public speaking, I thought, oh my God, this stuff's a bit contagious. And you know, it can be. I think mindset is contagious, actually. And I suppose it was at that moment I realized that, you know, I don't care how long it takes, how many decades I'm going to manage this thing between my ears. I'm going to manage my mind so that I can do what I want to do, and I can fulfill my potential and be fearless. And you know, it's a tragic story because that my husband then, although we sort of we weren't together when it happened, but he did eventually take his own life. And you know, many years later, and I honestly believe that looking back, there are so many people suffering in here, suffering because they are scared, suffering because they're fearful, insecure, and in a way afraid to grow their mindsets and push themselves out their comfort zone. And it's a terrifying life. And I suppose that my mission has been, how can I model fearlessness so that I can then help as many people as possible, including my own kids, three kids, be fearless learners and realize that life is about learning. Absolutely. So I suppose, you know, and I also think that we can have any number of careers in our lives.
Yeah.
And having said yes to everything that cropped up in my opportunity box for careers, which included being a head teacher, when I became a head teacher, although I thought, great, I can change the curriculum, I can introduce opening minds and all sorts of interesting stuff, I did find a lot of my time was spent in meetings and, you know, all sorts of things that I didn't find that inspiring. So I left and then started my own business, doing training, writing books, doing the things I love. And now in the last 4 years, I've been really interested in coaching, because I think if you're going to change anybody's mindset, coaching is a fantastic power tool to change people's mindsets. And I think it's hugely powerful. And I wish more schools would embrace a culture of coaching for kids and for adults. Actually, it's very powerful. So I suppose, yeah, I forgot what the question was, but I think that
it's about your job.
Yeah, the job I've got now, which I must admit I am semi-retired, because I've got a nice place in Spain where I go quite frequently now, where I can do my writing and I can do my online coaching, and I love it.
At all.
Yes, I know. And I'm just in quarantine now, obviously, having been there for a month and come back in quarantine. But the good thing about quarantine is you have to get down to doing some work and writing. You can't do anything else. So now what I do is I don't worry so much now about earning money to pay the mortgage. I worry more about just getting this stuff out there in the world, however it happens. And I'm so proud of Gemma and Liz, is it Liz, who are doing that. Because every time I see them on Twitter and every time I see what they're doing, I just think this is just the way. It's the way to grow an awareness of what really matters in schools, what the purpose of education is. It's not just about exams. It's about.
Do you know, we've not paid Jackie at all to say any of that.
No, they haven't paid me, but I love it because it's really rethinking, especially during COVID. What is the purpose of education? What are we doing this for? What do we want our young people to leave school with? And no matter how much we want them to make progress, and we want them to learn the subjects, of course we do. We want them to be really good at writing and reading and science and maths and all those things. They can't do that. They just can't do that if they don't believe they can learn, if they don't believe that learning is possible, and they don't have hope and optimism about the way the world is and how they should deal with it. And they have mental illnesses and anxiety and all those things that matter so much. We just need to get those conversations going and get children to be able to manage their minds. And the first way to do that, which we'll probably come to in a minute, is through teachers understanding how to manage their mindsets.
I mean, I love your story because you talk about this fear of public speaking, and you actually now do this all the time. That is what you do. You talk to people about your experiences and about mindset and all that sort of stuff. So to come full circle in that idea of actually being sick with the thought of public speaking, to now come round to be doing this all the time, is an amazing journey, and to me shows the power of being able to change your mindset and actually what you can achieve when you have a go at doing that as well, and you live and breathe it.
Actually, the full circle bit is I can honestly say it's only been the last maybe 5 years that I've actually been telling people, do you know what? I used to be terrified of public speaking, and they say, we don't believe it. It can't be true. You're so confident. But in a way, that's when it all completely falls away, your nervousness, because you then realize you're not hiding anything. Whereas I spent so many years, decades, hiding the fact that I'm this big extrovert character, but I'm absolutely petrified of you hearing me in a public arena. And it's so freeing. It's so massively freeing to not be scared.
Yeah, it's incredible. So you must have had somebody or people around you that have influenced you. We always talk about how your outside influences impact on your mindset, and we were talking off air a minute ago about how it's contagious, and you've mentioned about depression being contagious as well. Who's had the most positive influence on you, and why?
I think there's a few people, there's so many people actually, but I think I started off in those early days when I had a baby and a sick husband, and I was lost, and I just started to do all the NLP stuff, neuro-linguistic programming, which was the Tony Robbins and stuff. And I was looking on my shelf and thinking, the power with Awaken the Giant Within and all that stuff. And I just started reading those sorts of books. and realizing that there was this way of seeing things differently. And I suppose my journey from there has been through so many different inspirational writers and characters, right through, I would say now, to someone called Michael Neill, who wrote a book called The Inside Out Revolution, and lots of Buddhist and really The Power of Now and Eckhart Tolle, all those sorts of people who are into meditation and absolute peaceful mindsets. All of those, but looking back at people, ordinary people that have influenced me in my career and life. I had a head teacher when I was a part-time teacher, struggling on my own as a single mum as I was at that time with 2 kids. And that head teacher, he came into my school. His name's Tim Bartlett, actually, lovely man, and he was one of these leaders who was very humble, and I was just a part-time English teacher, and he just got me in his office and said, I want to know what life's like from your perspective. You know, what ideas have you got, how we can, it was a lovely school, how we can make this school even better. And I thought, wow, here's a leader. I thought these leaders up on the pedestal, you know, they know everything, they're such heroes to me. And he was just asking my humble opinion. And I just thought, wow, if ever I get to leadership role, I'm going to try and be like that. Listen to everybody, listen to feedback, take responsibility, hold myself accountable for the culture and the way the school is evolving and growing. And so he was a massive influence on me in the sense of how leadership should work. And then later on, he allowed me, I mean, he let me do the AST, Advanced Skills Teacher Training and all that stuff, and totally believed in me and my career development. And one day I was allowed to go out and do training in schools when there was loads of more training going on. And one day I was doing some training, and a lady came up to me at the end, and she said, oh, will you be my coach? And I thought, I didn't even know what she really meant. You know, I suppose I just thought of coaching as being like football coaching, and I haven't got a clue what you mean, but yes. She said, well, I'm a teacher and I want to be, you know, I'm trying to introduce coaching as part of performance management and trying to drive up results in my department like that. And I know that I need a coach, and I love what you're doing, and so so we went on this learning journey together for about 20 years. We actually wrote The Perfect Teacher Coach. It's Terry Broughton and when she told me her story, and I think it's in the Grow book actually, of being at 15 different foster homes and terrible, tragic upbringing. And now, I mean, you've probably seen you'll see, if any of you follow me on Twitter or LinkedIn, some of her paintings she does now, because she's a fabulous artist now. She's just been displayed in the National Gallery. I mean, she's not only become a head teacher, in the time I've known her, she's become a head teacher, she's a coach, she's now a painter. And like, she's one of the loveliest, most loving human beings you could ever meet. And she's my role model as a coach. And she is absolutely someone who's inspired me, because I've had a lovely upbringing. I've had a lovely life. I've been lucky. She had the most terrible challenges and the most awful experiences in her life, and yet she came through it, and she's now full of love and kindness and happiness in her life. Now, to me, that shows that if she can do it, anybody, no matter what your background, no matter what's happened to you, no matter what your tragedies are, you can have, through having a growth mindset, attitude to life, you can learn and be whatever you want to be. So those are the people that have inspired me.
She sounds amazing, absolutely incredible. So we are so passionate about growth mindset, aren't we, in all areas of life, whether it's at school, whether it's at work, whether it's just for you personally. Obviously, we've already mentioned COVID and lockdown, and that's been a real challenge for people, and it's been a challenge for my family, as I'm sure it has for you. Have you seen an impact on your mindset through COVID in some shape or form? And if so, how have you sort of tried to overcome that challenge?
I think what's really interesting about studying all the work of Carol Dweck, growth mindset, and everything around that emotional intelligence debate is that eventually you do create new neural pathways in your head, and you do create those neural pathways of optimism and how to reframe situations. And I honestly think that the benefits through the whole COVID debacle, right from February through to now, when my business, I've lost a lot of work. My kids have struggled in one sense. My grandchildren have struggled. It's been a trying time, but I honestly think once you have really embedded the growth mindset way of being, and it is a being, not a doing, in a way it's just a being, somehow you can't help but see the way through it, the hope, the optimism, the good bits. And when we're all out clapping, and I just see such the good part of human nature. And it's just a habit now. I don't even have to think about it. My husband always says to me, I often talk, about my husband's default setting of misery, which he has a bit, and we always laugh about it, and how I can't help but naturally, unconsciously reframe situations and see there's something good going to come out of this. And what's the good? What I worry about is the way schools are in this operational mode. Just the head teachers are so busy dealing with the COVID stuff. They're sort of like too worried to actually think about other stuff. But on the other hand, the opportunity here, and I suppose it's about seeing threats as opportunities. It's about seeing the gifts that new stuff and change can bring you, rather than the anxieties that it brings you and the worries. The gift it can give you is a real chance to rethink about this purpose of education, and how can we, your mindset staff and my staff and all the other people that are working in schools, think, for our children, this generation, they're suffering so much. They haven't had school, they've got parents that are anxious, they've got exams that somehow are no longer a useful tool to measure their progress or their intelligence, or help them go on to the next stage. We need to help everybody to have a sense of growth is possible, and that we can manage our minds so that uncertainty is bearable, because none of us knows what's around the corner. Even now, we don't know what's around the corner. And I found myself able to easily live with this uncertainty. People said, well, I went to Spain recently because I've got a place out there, and he was, aren't you scared to go to Spain, and aren't you scared to go to the airport? And I said, no, because whatever happens, I will deal with it. Who knows what will happen, but I will go, because I've got to go and see my place. We've got good reason to go out there. And when I come back, I should go through my 14 days quarantine, and I should deal with that, and good things will come out of that. And it's a sort of habit of thinking, and what we need to do is help our children have these habits. And so what I've found is that I haven't found it difficult. I can honestly say I've almost found it interesting. And I think that's a really important thing about growth mindset. Instead of finding things scary, get curious about it. Get curious about, how is this happening? How am I thinking? How am I reacting to it? How's this making me feel? And when you get curious about stuff, it's much less scary. And so I have found that all of the teachings of the growth mindset stuff have helped me, because it's embedded in me, to manage this and make positive things out of it. And during this time, I've finished 2 books, and I've written my novel, and my novel is all about someone who becomes growth mindset. I mean, as if it wouldn't be, but so I've been doing all that stuff, and I've done loads of webinars. I've learned stuff about Zoom.
In a bad situation, haven't you? Different ways of approaching this and making the most of it, rather than wallowing in it, really, haven't you? Really taking the grip of it. So in terms of we were talking off air before about, obviously, we are 100% on board with growth mindset, but we talked off air about how much stuff there is on social media about it's just a fad, or there's a new piece of research to say it doesn't work. How do you deal with that, and what do you sort of say to those people who come up with this this research that's being done. What's your argument against that?
Well, they say, don't they, if you stand still long enough, everything comes full circle. And you know, 30 years ago, there I was teaching learning to learn classes in Key Stage 3, and it's similar stuff. It's you know, all about how to be a good learner, all about the brain, how it works, how to manage your mind, how to be optimistic, how to have empathy. All of that was really popular then, and then it went out of favor. And we see this, and I know at the moment, because I've just written this book, just a little advert here, I've written this book. I've, you know, all that, you know, cognitive load theory and all memory techniques, and all of this stuff is really, really useful stuff. And it's the latest thing. But I think the danger is that in schools, we tend to, you know, the latest bandwagon, we think this is the answer, this is the answer. Actually, what matters is what works for your children, your teachers, what works in your school, in your context. And I think, yes, we need the research, we need the evidence, but I always think that for me personally, growth mindset and the thinking behind it has worked to make my life happier, make me more peaceful, make me more confident, more fearless. And it's helped and I've brought my daughters up on it as well. So they've often said, wow, that's made such a difference to me in their working lives, because they're now in their 30s. I think that what we do is we just say, look, what do I know about? I only know from my own experience what's worked for me. I know what I've seen working. If you would like to do some research and find out if this is going to work, then I suggest you try it, and you have that sort of multifaceted approach that tries different things and see what works, and find out every child is different. Every different group of children will need something a little bit different, and it's really important to help children take ownership of their own change and their own self-coaching and self-management. And when we do that, we give them that independence. So we're not saying there's one way to do it and you've got to do it like this. And it's no good just doing a tick box exercise. Oh yes, we do. We do. You know, we do feedback. We do some coaching questions. We've done growth mindset. Now, what's the next big thing?
Yeah,
It's just really building into your culture, your school, a sense of can do, a sense of optimism, a sense of being I often talk about a continuum of, you know, where do you want to be between love and fear? Do you want to be working in fear of Ofsted, fear of bad exam results, fear of children having problems and mental health issues? Or do you want to be in a place of just doing everything with a sense of caring and love and well-being, and, you know, the believing that most people, most children particularly, and most teachers just want to do the very best and be the best they can be. Let's just help them do that. So I wouldn't say that I sort of agree or disagree with. There'll always be research to prove everything. So 1 minute a glass of red wine does you good, the next day it gives you cancer. You know, it'll always be the same. They'll prove that growth mindset doesn't work. But actually, it's interesting because when I was writing this book, my latest one, The Learner's Toolkit, which is all about lessons in metacognition and mindset for kids. I was asking John Hattie, and John Hattie is someone who is actually another inspiration for me, because he really digs down into teachers and what makes an effective teacher. And I love his phrase, you know, teachers are change agents. They are the agents of change. They're the people that can make a huge difference in a child's life. And what he says about mindset is, he says the main thing is that children need to know when they need a growth mindset, when they're struggling, when they can't do it, when they're feeling anxious. And a fixed mindset, sometimes you have to have a fixed mind. You have to have that fixed mindset approach when you're absolutely determined to do something, get it done, and you're absolutely driven, laser sharp into a focus. And that's a bit fixed mindset, and that's fine as well. So there's not, you know, we're all a bit of both, and we all use growth mindset and fixed mindset when it's suitable. But the main thing is to know that when you're struggling, not to beat yourself up in your head, to be willing to experience the pain of struggle and realize that's part of you growing your new neural pathway. That's what it is. That's growing your ability to take on the next challenge. and being willing to take on those challenges. And there's nobody that probably disagrees that we need to challenge our children more, that we need to raise the bar and challenge them so that they experience that. There's nothing worse than a really bright child, and there are plenty of them that start off at school at 5, 6, 7, they're told they're geniuses, they're absolutely brilliant, the mum and dad think they're wonderful, and by the time they get to 11, 12, 13, they're scared to not come top of the class. And that, to me, is a terrible thing we do in education. We should not be helping children be scared of trying stuff they can't do, because the only way you grow your brain is to try stuff you can't do. And even our brightest children sometimes get that plateau, don't they? And I think that's
we often found that, Jackie, in our when we talk to kids now about, you know, what holds them back, what stops them from putting their hand up in class, what stops them from having to go at this more challenging piece of work. The response is always the same, and that response is, I'm scared of making a mistake and getting it wrong. That fear of not getting it right first time and not understanding it the first time they have a go at. We find that really, really interesting. It's the same conversation from school to school, wherever we work.
And I bet you find, I would put money on it, that you find the older they get, the more that fear is there. Whereas when they're young, when you see little children in reception, they don't care about getting it wrong. They just know that's how you learn. And yet we lose that. We lose that ability to know we are perfect learners innately. Innately, we are perfect learners. And everything else, the worry of being judged, being compared, and our whole education system is built on judgment. And although, you know, it needs to be in one way, because we need to know progress, but maybe the pendulum has just swung too much that way, and learning needs to be the driver rather than judgment.
Definitely. And our work is very similar in what we do. You predominantly work with adults, and we've got a bit of a mix of both. And you've obviously, it's come across how important you feel that mindset is. But what would you say is in it? If you could come up with like the top 5 things of what's in it for them. I've always been told, recently been told in my business coaching kind of stuff, that people want to know what's in it for them. So what's in it for schools to get involved in developing a growth mindset culture?
Well, what's in it for them is, for me, it delivers on the results aspect, you know, and it's interesting. I was talking to some business people this morning and saying, look, you know, head teachers are under such pressure that we need to make sure that what we're doing is actually improving outcomes and results, and that the children will make more progress. So you've got what's in it for you is definitely the kids are going to make more progress. But before they can do that, it's also the well-being factor, it's the happiness factor. I mean, English children are some of the unhappiest in the world. What's going on? You know, it's happy children succeed and achieve. And so being happy because they can see that that they're in a culture of allies. I always love that Carol Dweck phrase, developing in your school a culture of allies where we all want to help each other and we're all proud of each other's achievements. And by the way, that starts in the staff room. That starts in the staff room where teachers support each other to be the best teachers they can be. And that also starts with leaders and head teachers supporting each other in their clusters, in their trusts, that they all see that helping each other's school actually is supportive. So the culture of allies, if you want to develop that in your school and have a happy school, and you want the results that come from that, that's definitely takeaways. But in the bigger picture, there's the sense of your, believe it or not, your own personal well-being as a leader, as a school leader. Because once you realize that as a leader, you're modeling, the only way it'll work in your school is if you model growth mindset. And you stand up and say, oh, I got this wrong, but you know what? I learned this and this from it. You know, and let's all do 360-degree appraisal where we actually ask the kids how we're doing, get feedback from them, where we ask our peers, our colleagues how we're doing, where I, as your leader, say, how am I doing as your leader? Can you give me some feedback? You get that sort of sense of being willing to fail and to experience failure and know there's no such thing as failure, only feedback,
Yeah.
as a leader. And so therefore you will become more confident yourself in the leadership of your school, because you won't be so afraid to fail. You won't be so afraid, because you realize that actually growth mindset culture is what you want to develop in your school, because it means teachers will be more confident, take more risks, be more open-minded. They will be willing to take more feedback. They will, whereas in a fixed mindset culture, you get that sort of defensiveness, that sort of hiding secretive sort of hiding mistakes. And then when Ofsted come, guess what? All is revealed, and what you want is a self-evaluation that is honest and open, and written with the growth mindset. You know, that the self-evaluation form for Ofsted is open and honest, because you know that you know your school, your teachers know their kids, and the kids know themselves.
Well, you know, we could talk all night, me and you. We've had such a good conversation. For anyone that doesn't know, we've actually, even though we've been doing this interview, we've actually had another half an hour, 45-minute conversation before, and we're still probably not even finished. We could go on forever, but it is Friday night, so I must let you get on. If people want to find out more about Jackie Beer, your books, what you do and your coaching, where do they need to head to?
Well, if they head to my website, which is jackiebeer.com, that's it. If they head there, they can contact me via that particular route. I also work for Independent Thinking Limited, but at the moment I'm doing coaching, and I will say, just mention that the next stage on really in terms of growth mindset and sustaining it, to me, is coaching, because working with somebody one-to-one, and having somebody ask you those questions that make you look inside and reflect how you're thinking is perhaps unconsciously limited. That is so good. And if anyone would like to talk to me, just a conversation about coaching and how it works, or how it could work in your school, or how children can benefit from it, coaching each other, I'm very happy to hear from you via my website, or via Gemma, or via jackiebeer@gmail.com.
Definitely, Jackie, that coaching is such the way forward. We've sort of taken that on board during lockdown, because people were crying out during lockdown in terms of not knowing where to go and what they were doing. And we've coached numerous children and adults, and the impact that the work that we've done in such a short space of time on their mindset and how they feel about themselves, and their self-confidence and what they want to achieve and the direction that we're going, it's been absolutely incredible. So absolutely get in touch with Jackie if you want to find out more about the coaching work that she does. Thank you so much for joining me today. I've really appreciated it. It's been like a little bit starstruck, because you're one of our heroes. So I really
well, it's lovely, and I think what you're doing is absolutely great. So keep up the good work, and let's keep in touch.
Definitely, I'd love to stay in touch with you. You take care. Go and enjoy your weekend.
And you have a lovely weekend.
See you later. Bye.
Bye, Gemma.